Hi everybody, welcome to the Big Orange Podcast. My name is Matt. I'm the Director of Video and Podcasts here at Big Orange Media, and today we're in sunny Cyprus. We are here visiting our client Altia, who is one of the biggest real estate agents in Cyprus, a brand that we helped begin from start. And I'm here with our CEO, Joe.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, yes. Ever so slightly fatigued. But I'm well. I'm very happy to be here. It's always nice to be here. I would do a very British thing and start talking about the weather. Oops, I already have.
It's warmer here than it is in the UK at the moment.
Well, let's see how maybe they'll have some freak sort of weather front and it'll be 30 degrees. I doubt that, but I'm very well and I'm very pleased to be here, Matthew.
Well, we're here for 3 or 4 days filming and recording podcasts for Altia, a company that we've helped pretty much, as I said, from the beginning in terms of branding and putting everything together. To give some context, they're looking to become, and I think pretty much already are, one of the leading brands in Cyprus for property, across everything from residential, commercial, plots of land as well, so lots of different things. But we really got there at the beginning of their journey. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that began and some of the choices that we made to get them to where they are today?
Of course, yeah. So we were actually approached by really close contact of the business who had started working with what has now become Altia. And they needed some assistance in, a number of marketing activities, but first and foremost, they actually didn't have a name at that point. So that's the first time we've been involved in naming a business. I mean, that's quite an interesting project in itself.
It's quite a heavy thing to do, isn't it, from start to finish? And I think the interesting thing I remember about the beginning of that was obviously the cultural significance of it. We had to look into sort of Greek and Cypriot positioning and making sure that when we came up with a name or offered a bunch of names, I seem to remember us going for, that they sort of fit that market.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, as with any, market and anywhere you're operating, you have to be sensitive of the sort of the anything geopolitical and cultural sensitivities, all that sort of stuff. But I mean, from our perspective, really exciting. So we were approached, and then myself and one of our colleagues, Claire, came out actually to meet with the senior management team. And yet it was all very embryonic stages. So we, started a discovery workshop, kind of talking about our process in terms of how we identify what the key markers of the brand are. We're digging quite, deeply into what they wanted to achieve. And I think there was a real shared sense of making sure that they, as a business, were very, very customer centric. I know that is a phrase that's kind of banded around loads, but genuinely they've brought in some fantastic property professionals from across the whole island and people that genuinely have got a vested interest over and above it just being their job, but a genuine interest in making sure that what they say and what they do, and ultimately that the asset, the house, the plot of land, the apartment, is matched to the right individual. And it is very much about relationships. So that was very clear from day dot. So therefore we had to build the whole brand narrative around all of that. I think that there was a real opportunity for us to help Altia kind of push the boundaries a little bit, because in terms of the look and feel of most property businesses in Cyprus, typically they are using lots of blue, and they're using fairly formal, perhaps more standardized color palette. Again, opinions on my own, but with what we've landed on for Altia and what's been very successful is a color palette that is probably unusual to see in a real estate business like this. And I think that's given them such a massive standout value and genuinely has created something that people now resonate with when they are conducting those property searches. So
it feels like a point of difference as well, because you mentioned the sort of the color palette that exists, the traditional one, the stark thing being the pink and the teal together. So there's a little nod to the blue that exists a lot of across the board, but so it's familiar but also incredibly striking. And I think the first time that you and I came here together last year, and some of the billboards were up and the advertising was across Nicosia, it's instantly recognizable. Okay, obviously we've lived and breathed it for about 6 to 8 months at that point, but you can't ignore it against a lot of what else is going on out there. How important do you think that's been in terms of that sort of brand identity?
Yeah, I think that's been really important. I think, we always try with all our branding projects to create standout value. I think that we achieve that, but the combination of the sort of the custom A, so the A of Altia is a sort of is a custom letter that we have created, which has become sort of the icon in itself,
central to any good brand.
Indeed. And that coupled with the color palette and, obviously all of the brand assets that underpin that, I think have been really, really impactful. So yeah, I definitely think it has a huge benefit to any business to have something that is a hook that is quite obviously them. It's like any great brands you can think of, the Nike tick.
Exactly, that's the first thing I think of.
Tick.
Yeah.
I'm swaying.
Depending on where you're from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
the Adidas.
Transatlantic. But you know what I mean?
Yes.
Having some sort of icon to be able to sort of resonate with it, I think really helps a brand sort of stand out. So yeah, absolutely. I think that I would say that, of course, but I genuinely do think that's.
And we've had feedback to that end as well. It's not just what we're saying. It's I've had direct feedback from people saying that. So.
Yeah, good. And I think that whenever you set out on any journey like that with a client, you want to make sure that what you create is not just sort of a whimsical impression of what it could potentially be. It has to stand the test of time. So one of our creative team, lead creatives, we work very, very hard on developing lots of different ideas. And I think when you look back at all of the different potential identities and names, I mean, it was a lot.
Yes, but it was good to have that wider palette and then whittle it down as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously that's a good basis to begin from. So a recognizable, identifiable brand, something that will sort of set you apart from the market, but also be included within that. Yeah. Obviously then, as you mentioned, the office and the people that are here giving 110% and doing their jobs and forging forward with that as a service is as equally as key.
Yeah.
But it's then getting that message out there, not only to the folks in Cyprus, but then, of course, people abroad who will be looking to invest in Cyprus and property here.
Yeah.
What sort of avenues did we explore in terms of getting that message out there, and what sort of successes do you think came through in that first year?
Yeah, good question. I think the directive to start with was very much just to be the number one property marketplace in Cyprus. There are strong competitors here. That's a given. But I don't think anyone is doing it the way that Altia is doing it. And I think that has given them such an accelerated boost in the marketplace in such a short space of time. I genuinely think that the way that the strategies were positioned and the type of content that we produced, and ultimately the way that they were very open and still are very open to new ideas, why we're here this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
It certainly gives the phrase "a breath of fresh air" new meaning. Like genuinely, I think people want to say that they take risks, but in reality, we do try to colour inside the lines and want to make sure that we just stick to doing what we know works, rather than continuously trying to find new and wacky ideas. Not that I'm suggesting they do that, but I mean it's podcasting for a property business is not new in itself, but certainly in the way that we're kind of presenting this new series, it's something that hasn't been done before, certainly here, and I think that's really refreshing. And in terms of some of those strategies, obviously we need to think about how do we become the number one property marketplace in Cyprus, and that is quite obviously using all the digital media tools that are available. Really leveraging paid search and social to make sure that we are top of Google rankings. We are showing content that needs to be, or really should be seen by all. Brand awareness, and then kind of doubling down on these really lovely high value properties and the sort of wider assets that they have for different sort of target groups. So it was segmented, but overall it was kind of building out the brand in a way that would make it really clear for people to see what they're all about.
So shortly we will go to an interview that you had with Constantinos, who's a member of the Altia team and sort of relatively our main contact throughout this process on a day-to-day basis. Very passionate chap and very important member of the team. But before we go on to that, obviously you just alluded to the fact that we are here this week to do podcasts and also video podcasts, or podcasts as some folks call them. And that's, people are leaning into that now as a medium for folks to communicate things of all kinds. It's not just, everyone likes to talk about, the true crime and all those sorts of things, but then also there's loads of different things.
I thought that was what this was, so I'm sorely disappointed.
The true crime Cyprus, No, well, I mean, my favourite podcast, as I think we've spoken about before, is the Coman and Mayo's Take, and all about film and everything. But and I know that we've spoken to some of our colleagues, Jess obviously as well, has talked at length about the podcast that she listens to. What's your favourite? What's your podcast on the go at the moment?
It's a Dutch podcast.
Of course it is. Nederpod.
Nederpod. I don't know if it's called that, but I really wish it
should be.
It should be called Nederpod. It's called Het Geheim van Weisman, which means the secret of Weisman, which is his second name. And it is a true crime podcast set in the 1800s, and he was murdered on New Year's Eve on a train from Amsterdam to Den Haag. And he was stabbed in a first-class carriage. And now there's a dossier in the National Archive in the Netherlands, which is full of the reports of this crime and still unsolved. So they're kind of trying to solve it. So
interesting.
I'd say I've given it away, but it's quite a niche.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess it's possibly unusual that there'd be someone else Dutch listening to a podcast about us talk about property branding in Cyprus, but maybe there is, and maybe I've spoiled it for you. And if there is, sorry.
We'll just put a spoiler alert at the beginning of the podcast. Do not listen to this if you're looking for Dutch true crime. But that just goes to show the breadth of things that exist in this medium,
for sure.
And I think that there's everything from that sort of real life and entertainment sort of thing, which with the Coman and Mayo podcast, right through to instructional things, and just anything really. And I think that variety and the medium that it comes in, that can be listened to anywhere. If you think about it, obviously if you're watching TV, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be in front of it, even if you have a second screen on the go. The podcasts are everywhere. You can listen to them whilst you're cooking, whilst you're in the car. It's like radio, all that element of it, etc., and that on-demand element of it. And then obviously since the initial sort of part of podcast, which I feel like is at least 15 if not 20 years ago, when they sort of first popped onto the scene, there's the renaissance which has come then with the video podcast, which is exactly what we're doing now, which is as engaging and as important to the medium as just listening to it vocally. Where do you see sort of podcast and video-based podcasts going in the future?
I think podcasts, from our perspective in the future, cliched answer coming up, but they're just going to get bigger and bigger. We've already seen a massive uptick this year. It's only the end of February in all the businesses that we work with, sort of inquiring, and certainly a number of them now engaging us to kind of produce this type of work. I think purely for the reason that it gives businesses space to talk about the type of things that they really want to talk about in an authentic and natural way.
It's the authenticity, isn't it? Yeah,
I definitely think so. And I think that we've seen so much more of the sort of the partnership between more classic standardized promotional video content and this sort of vodcasting content that we've been producing. So I think it's just a natural progression for those that are already using video. It's definitely part of the marketing mix now when we look at all the different ways that we can use these assets to drive more traffic towards their website or a specific campaign or whatever that may be. But yeah, genuinely, that we can see it. We're here doing this. It's growing and getting bigger all the time. So yeah, just going up.
And I also feel like, as we mentioned, there's the ability to then make this into short form content. You're taking those little sections, those little clips of that authentic communication about something, and you can, with video as well, of course, use that as a means for social media. and to get that across, and then to bring people to the larger piece of content, i.e. the full podcast or video podcast that they're watching. So it just gets it across in that way. It's more content. It's never going to replace, as you say, the more sort of traditional video mediums, but it's a good contemporary. It's a good addition to the suite of things that people can use to promote their business. Yeah,
absolutely. And it may be more suitable, for certain businesses. Actually, we have already seen that the adoption of this type of content has led to people thinking, more longer term about what does a series look like, as opposed to just like, this is one video we've got to do on X subject and that's all we've got. A very interesting space to be in, natural progression for us, and we're lucky that we've got the capacity to produce the quality quickly, and already have got things in place that kind of show what we're able to do. And I think that for a lot of people is something that gives them lots of reassurance when they sort of reach out. We're just kind of really looking at the best way to kind of grow that part of the business, and give people what they want.
So we're now going to jump to an interview that you haven't yet done with Constantinos. This is happening tomorrow. And then afterwards we can wrap it up by saying, wow, what a great interview that you just had.
Great. I look forward to that happening.
But we're going to talk to him about the relationship between Big Orange Media and Altia, and obviously his point of view of how things have gone, and hopefully it's all positive. So
otherwise there won't be an interview in the middle.
So here's your chat with Constantinos.
So I'm joined here by Constantinos Stylianou, Marketing Manager for Altia. Constantinos, thank you for joining me and agreeing to answer my tirade of questions.
Hello, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here, actually.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for your invitation. Again, I'm happy to be here after more than 1 year of collaboration with Big Orange.
Good. That's what we're going to talk about. And hopefully we've all got some nice things to say about each other. But yeah, I've just got a few questions actually about the work that we've done. And I wanted to really sort of kick off with a fairly big one, which is what do you think is the biggest reason for Altia's success in the first year?
Well, I would say the most important is our people. Our team is... It's full of more, I would say, 70 people of professionals in the real estate market in Cyprus, with an extent knowledge and expertise. Then, of course, our innovation of using technology and marketing to cover, let's say, our needs for promoting our properties and present it to the market. And, of course, creating some good communication channels with our audience. Then I would say it's our aim to provide quality services and keep a human-centric approach for our clients and customers.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I think it's the reason you are here. It's collaboration with all the external partners, suppliers, and generally our external network of, let's say, business partners and communication parties.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, it's always, when you take on any new client and start working on any new project, it's really, it's a blessing when you have such a good relationship. And, I feel like, especially the wider team, certainly Natasha and Kritonas, and ultimately dealing day to day with you and you with a number of our team, I think that's been really, really beneficial. If I kind of flip the coin though, from Altia's perspective, what was it like working with an agency to bring that brand to life?
I would say that actually I will stay on the point of the human touch and the human approach. I mean, even if it's clients or partners or customers, it's the same when it comes with any cooperations and collaborations, even with the agencies. It's the human touch, the connection you have with the colleagues, even the external partners. I think that was the most important thing to have, especially with Big Orange. Your team shared your expertise and all new techniques and suggestions that we can follow. And you, at the end again, you save us time. And of course, the most important, you deliver those promises, I would say, and you managed to deliver to us very nice and excellent results. And we have achieved a lot in 2023.
You'll make me blush, Constantinos. I might have to get a tissue out and wipe my eye. I'm so happy. No, as I said, it's an amazing result. From your perspective, as a Cypriot, what do you feel Altia's reputation is now in the marketplace?
I would say, and I hope, and I expect that all the reputation followed by a positive feedback from generally the public. Of course, the challenges were a lot. We had to start Altia from the scratch more than 1 year ago. Besides the new approach and the new look and feel that company would have, it was also a challenge to have a consistency and be trustworthy to the public. Yeah. And of course, we had to combine the strategy, how to differentiate ourselves from the competition. Yeah. And I trust that we did that through transparency and professionalism and targeting the right audience and of course covering their needs. Yeah. So here we are trying to do our best, again, using technology and marketing practices in order to cover those needs and be real to our audience.
Yeah. And I think that you genuinely are. You're doing something very different and very progressive. And I think that, as an outsider, when we come here and see the competitors, so to speak, I appreciate obviously you're doing something very different to most, which is, why it's so exciting working with you guys. But what would you see as sort of your main differences amongst those that would be considered your competition?
First of all, the credit goes to our people, our staff. They have the knowledge and the expertise to cover not just the sales procedure of a property, but they can, let's say, cover from A to Z. Yeah. We have a second to none experience to help with any inquiries that has to do with real estate in Cyprus. So again, we have considered the needs of our audience. That's why we are able to answer any question and any, let's say, inquiries that anyone may have in Cyprus, how to buy a property or how to sell it. Yeah. Or how it goes with the governmental bodies that are involved. And last but not least is our portfolio. We have a plethora of options from residential, commercial, and land opportunities throughout Cyprus. Even this has to do with an investment, for a future investment, both for locals and foreigners. And someone can buy his or her first house in Cyprus. And all those, let's say, properties that are covered through our website and our social media, through detailed presentations, infographics and videos and 3D tours that will be very helpful for an individual to check on it.
Yeah, and I've noticed actually that some of those competitors have now started presenting their properties in a very similar way when it comes to digital marketing, which they weren't doing when we were first having this conversation, or I was first having this conversation with Konstantinos and Natasha. And certainly when you and I first started working together, none of the competition were using any of the tools that are now, I'd say, fairly commonplace. Certainly since you've launched, I've seen a lot more people kind of use more drone videography and the way the transitions work. It's really interesting, and it must be quite flattering, right? The fact that, people have seen what you're doing and tried to kind of take the best bits of that and move it forward.
Indeed, that's actually true. It's very positive for us to see even competitors or other companies, let's say, taking some points that they like of what we are doing, and they are implementing on their strategies as well. Yeah. We are in an open market. Everybody and everyone can do whatever they want at the end of the day. It's very positive for us and for marketing and myself as well to see other companies copying in a good way of our best practices, I would say. And this comes not only for the competitors, but our suppliers as well. We are taking many positive feedback from different venues and let's say spots that we are advertising on.
Yes.
So if you could say that that's kind of an innovation how we promote
I think
properties
you are
in
innovators. Yeah.
in Cyprus.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And that's
much
cool. I mean, that's part. It's fun to be a part of that process because I think actually, I mean, what I wanted to end on was asking you what is your favorite part of the Altia brand. I mean, I've certainly got my favorites, but I wanted to ask you what you thought was your.
You have to answer to that question as well.
I do.
At the end, right?
Yeah, I will. Don't worry.
Well, yeah, my favorite part on Altia. I mean, yeah, it's a bit biased opinion because I'm here since the beginning.
Yeah.
I went through the whole procedure.
Yeah.
I would say that I would never change the part that we are designing together, the whole brand of the new company. I mean, the new logo, the colors, and the name. Of course, it took us around 2 or 3 months to decide what the actual name and approach should be. The thoughts were a lot. We are examining different aspects of how
52 names were thrown in the ring.
Yeah, it was 52. It was 52. And after that, the whole procedure, how we built on that. I mean, it's someone could say that it's very easy to decide the name and colors. And the challenges after the stage. I mean, the challenging was how would you appear to the public? Would they accept it? Would they reject it? Any bad comments, any negative comments? And building of that, it was more and more, let's say, challenging for us. And at the same time, we are enjoying the whole trip.
Yeah.
And we are checking out for every month that we are operating new content and new creative coming alive. The website then went live. Then the digital ads followed by events. So it was, I would say, a holistic experience. And I enjoyed it a lot. I still enjoy it. So
Yeah, look, I mean, you only just scratched the surface. I think, my answer to that question is very similar. I think it's the daring nature of, the brand, not the company per se, but certainly the brand. I think using that color pairing, the pink and the blues, and obviously in a way that hasn't been done before. And I really have to just give a huge shout out to Natasha for really like innovating and kind of pushing that forward, because I think she was a real kind of linchpin in using that colorway and kind of really getting some changing hearts and minds in using that. And I think that really is just kind of looking at the wall behind you, that just kind of glaring at us. It really sets you apart from all of the competition. And funnily enough, I've seen some competition who shall remain nameless for the purposes of this podcast have also changed their brand colors to be a little bit more daring. So I think it's such it's an amazing achievement to see how far it's come. So I'm very excited to see where it's going this year. We've obviously got big plans. We are here doing podcasting with a number of very happy Altia clients. So we're going to keep that working and kind of see what happens next. So keep your eyes peeled for more podcasts, right?
Not just podcasts, but yes, of course. We love doing podcasts. We love sharing our content and generally our experience we have with the property, let's say, sector in Cyprus, and our engagement we have with people. As 2024, I'm sure you can expect a lot of things by Altia team and a lot of production is coming. But for sure, this not comes by itself. It's based on the sector. Yeah. If the sector grows, Altia with process and grow as well. Again, our main target is to present the best possible properties back to the market, and in the best possible way as well, using our techniques as I mentioned before. And for sure, more innovative products will come to the light. Yeah. And at the end of the day, all those things, it's for our suppliers, for our customers, for our people, to be familiar of what we are trying to sell here and have all the information available in their hands.
Yeah, the clear narrative, creating the story. And we've only just finished the first chapter, right, Constantinos?
Correct.
There's plenty more to come. Thank you ever so much for joining me and giving up your time. If anyone listening wants to check out how they can buy their first property in Cyprus, altia.com.cy.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
Thank you
mate.
again for inviting me.
You're so welcome.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
buddy.
What a great chat that was. He had so many important and interesting things to say. I'm sure he did. But you guys will be recording that tomorrow, and obviously that'll be in the final edit of this podcast.
Yeah, it was great, and it will be great, and everything is good. I feel like I'm in some sort of strange time paradox now. But
Welcome to the world of podcasting, my friend.
paradox podcasting.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the Big Orange Podcast. You can get hold of us across all of our socials and obviously on bigorangemedia.co.uk. We'll be back again with another episode very soon. But for now, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thanks, everyone.